Hello and welcome to Distinctive Eyeglass Hour with Eric and Chris. We'll be talking about... welcome to the Daily Chat. Hi there, I'm Eric Summerer. Delighted to be here with you. And my special guest tonight is Chris Michaud, also known as Moderator Chris, formerly of Flip the Table. Chris, how are you?
Fantastic. It is great to cast my shadow in the Dice Towers universe once again after such a long absence.
And what a shadow it is. So, Chris, the last time we talked was almost a year ago. We were talking before we got started. You and I got to meet up at a Weird Al concert, or not actually
That's right.
The concert. It was the day after, but we found out we were staying in the same hotel.
Yep.
And we got to have breakfast and hang out for a little while, and it's great to get to actually see you in person, although not geographically in the same place. But if you're looking at the window, we're right next to each other.
Right, close enough for horseshoes, as far as I'm concerned.
Indeed.
Yeah.
So since we spoke last, you became a level 2 parent.
That's right.
There is a
Yes.
second child in the house. How is all that going for you?
Ruby was born a couple of months ago. She is doing great. She is sleeping great. She has found her voice. So she lets us know when she has an opinion about things. And her sister, Roz, is 5 years old and is an amazing big sister.
Awesome.
She just loves having the baby around. She's been a real champion with all the challenges that come with a newborn. So it's been pretty well. Of all the times to have to be home, this is probably a good one. So
it's good. It provides a good amount of that bonding time, and you can really solidify as a family, I guess.
Yeah, and also watch game shows all day. It's also helpful for that, it turns out.
Speaking of the 5-year-old, what have you been playing lately with her?
So she is now at a point where there's a couple games that she can play by the rules as written. So we can play Jenga together. She can do that. She can play Don't Break the Ice.
Oh, all right.
Which is a lot of fun with her. And she always, toward the end of the game, she always says, Daddy, I want you to win. And I'm getting more and more convinced that she just wants to just kill that penguin. Like that's her motivation.
I want you to win, so I'm just gonna. It's much more fun if you smack it.
Yeah. So those two games we can play by the rules. Everything else is more of a play set.
Sure.
So when we play Monopoly Pizza, for example, it is all about going and getting pizza with your little metal friends. And then if you get a yucky pizza describing the pizza, she's like, that pizza tastes like mushrooms and rubber tires, and then having a good laugh about that. So
you're basically playing Monopoly the RPG.
Yeah, which frankly I'm surprised I haven't started playing years ago. But so she's a very imaginative kid, big imagination, and as long as we're interacting over a board game, I'm okay with it. I think it's good quality time well spent.
Very cool. So now, since we're on the subject of Monopoly, and of course,
sure.
Chat, if there's anything that you want to ask for me or Chris, be sure to ask that in the chat. We'll be sure to answer some of those questions. But I have my own, so you're gonna have to wait.
Okay.
I have a couple of Monopoly related questions. The first is that you, right after acquiring a copy, you talked about the Monopoly longest game ever version.
Yes.
But you had not, at least at that point, played it yet. Have you completed a game of Monopoly longest game ever yet?
I'm happy to report I have completed a game of Monopoly longest game ever.
Okay.
And we may have set a world record. We got it done in about 2 hours, 54 minutes, if I recall correctly, give or take a minute or two.
That's nothing.
Well, bear in mind that about 2 hours in, the goal of the game for the people at the table changed a little bit. I think At first we were playing very competitively to see if we could win. And then as the game unfolded and as the sort of other shoes started to drop, we decided to see if we could cooperate to bring the game to its conclusion. And so it became a group effort to try to finish the game. Because the object of the game, unlike regular Monopoly, is to own every property on the board. And one of the main mechanisms of the game is if you land on somebody else's property and owe rent, you can pay them rent plus $10 and seize that property from them. Which is as you can imagine, does cause the game to go a bit longer. But, okay, I can kind of see that where, it's a way to have properties move back and forth without trading because you have to own them all to win, right? But then there are cards in the chance deck which will basically blow the whole thing up and start it over. Like send a lot of properties back to the bank, after which they have to be repurchased and auctioned off. So it was kind of like, so every time one of this card was drawn, it was like, okay, we got a ticking time. We know this is going to come around again in several turns. What do we need to do to bring this game to a conclusion? So we basically picked a winner.
Oh, wow.
Supported that person and acted in a certain way to see if they could win. And I feel like if there's any game in that box, that's where the real game is. Like, you could try to be the group that sets a faster time than 2 hours and 54 minutes. Really, the game is intended as a joke on you, the person who purchased it. I honestly believe that. I think it's kind of a troll. It's everything in it is intended to sort of bonk you over the head with making this game longer. And if you appreciate that sense of humor, and if you're a Monopoly collector, those are the reasons to buy it. If you're looking for a tight game experience, maybe another version of Monopoly might be the better pick. But I'm a proud owner. I'm going to keep it in my collection because I have a weird sense of humor that way, I guess. Yeah.
If anyone in the chat is noticing, I look to be vibrating. I think my family is doing laundry right on the other side of the wall, and the washers. Sorry about that. It's not an earthquake. I'll be fine. I'm okay. Okay, one more Monopoly question before we get to what's coming up.
Then we got to go to the people.
We do, but I wanted to ask this before we get off the subject. What Monopoly rule, because everyone sort of grew up playing their own house rules and stuff. What real Monopoly rule were you surprised to learn was a rule?
So I think for me, it was the weird kind of corner case where you have to pay an extra 10% when you unmortgage something, because there's nothing really in the components that really spell that out. It's something you have to have read the rules to know.
Yep.
I don't know if it's a massive game impact if you have forgotten that, unlike, say, the free parking rule or something like that, which can significantly lengthen your game. But I think it was that, and then in some versions, if there's one house left in the bank and two people want it, you have to auction that last house off. Yes. And for us, we always just play that you just get it. Like, if you're the first to say, I want to buy it, then, everybody else you snooze, you lose. Again, I think in competitive tournament play, I think there's a reason for that to exist, and bless it that it does, but not necessarily something you have to strictly stick to, but there's a lot of other stuff that you probably should, including the speed die, my favorite Monopoly component of all time. But that's a discussion for another time.
Possibly later in this very program.
Could be. If other people ask about it, there's nothing I can do about that.
I was going to say, sort of related to what you said, the housing shortage rule was never something I knew existed, because I grew up playing my mother's set, which was from like 1935. It was an old set, but it was multiple sets. So multiple boxes of Monopoly had been thrown into this, cardboard box.
We had a Scrabble like that growing up.
Yeah. and so there were tons of houses. There were dozens of hotels, like tons of components. And to find out that there was actually a limited number and you could theoretically run out was mind-blowing to me. And wait, you mean you can buy? So I could buy the houses and not turn them in, and then you can't get more houses. Yeah, that's right. That's right.
You get the oranges, the light blues, 3 houses on each, and that is enough to put a real hurting on your opponents. So
there you go.
Yeah.
Okay, going to the chat. Crystal Pisano is in the chat. Hi, Crystal.
Hi.
My usual partner in crime on every other Wednesday night here for Dice Tower Tonight. But Crystal, and now I've lost it. Where did you go? There we go. I found her question. It was about game shows. What game show that is not on the air would you most want to be brought back to TV? And I think I know. I'm going to write down this answer because
play a little live match game.
I think I know. All right, I'm ready.
So I'm going to cheat a little bit because they announced this today, that this is going to happen this fall. that they are officially going forward with the Supermarket Sweep reboot.
Oh.
Hosted by Leslie Jones. They had announced it and said that they had greenlit it, but I wasn't sure if they were going to actually do it because everything kind of got thrown into disarray like everything else in the world right now. And especially a show about a supermarket, you would think they'd probably want to wait until supermarkets are a little more normal. But they're going to do it. It's going to be this fall on Sunday nights, and I am excited for that one. I could not be more glee-filled at this point. I'm curious to see what you wrote down, though.
I wrote down probably what was going to be your second answer, and that is Scrabble.
Correct.
TV Scrabble. You've been posting on Twitter, at least you were a week or two ago, of some of the clues in TV Scrabble, which I had forgotten how witty and creative they were.
Yes.
Because it was a game about guessing words, and you were given a couple of letters as you worked your way through the puzzle, but a lot of it was figuring out this witty crossword style clue that Chuck Woolery gave you, and some of them were very, very creative and sort of made you go, "Oh yeah, I get the pun now."
Yeah, it's this weird kind of lateral thinking puzzle that they had going on, which is certainly like a little extra kind of juice beyond Wheel of Fortune, right? Because Wheel of Fortune, you're just kind of filling in letters and you get it when you get it. Whereas this one, if you're smart enough and if you can think sideways enough, you might get it off the clue, which they gave you. And then they would try to tempt you to guess early by paying you extra money if you landed on a blue square or a pink square. And that was a really interesting element because that was cash in hand that you got to take away whether you won the game or not. But if you didn't know it or you guessed it wrong, then that was bad news. So the board game implementation is one of my favorite board games, actually. We might have massaged the rules quite a bit as we played it, but there were 50 games in there, and we played all 50 of them. We finished it, I think, late last year.
That's quite the accomplishment. You just have to write in for that refill pack. I'm sure it exists.
I'm sure if we write Selcho and Writer right now, they'll have a bunch of them ready to go.
I'm sure there's got to be a number you can call on the back of that rule book, and I'm sure they'll take care of it.
They won't offer you a free cruise, right?
That was one of my favorite elements of Flip the Table, going back to your podcast, because you would often play these older games that quite possibly were defunct, or the publishers had changed hands or whatever, and there would often be support phone numbers if you're missing a piece, or if you have comments about this, visit this website or go to this phone number, this 800 number. And of course, that number does not connect to customer support
ever connected to the actual board game company.
And so hearing who you found, you made lots of friends, met some Nigerian princes, and
there were some interesting things on the other end of that phone. There was at least one that we didn't talk about on the air on purpose, but
one of those numbers. I see.
Yeah, one of those numbers. But Flip's a brave man because he has that in his phone history now, and now he gets lots of cool phone calls. So, I never had the guts to record one of those calls, or maybe I was just too lazy to do it. But it was fun. Like, we go to the break and we come back, and Flip would describe his experience calling this phone number. And so, or the one time he found like a catalog it was always fun when we found a catalog in the game too. Yeah. You find like all the sort of assorted merchandise branded with the game that you could buy, like heartthrob boxer shorts and stuff like that. But,
wow.
Yeah.
Someone should just make those. There's lots of crafty people in the
Redbubble is a thing. You could just do it and then just see if anybody notices, but you didn't hear that from me.
Okay. Another question from Coralu asking, they've got the Toy Story cooperative game on the table. I'm assuming that's the one based on the Harry Potter deck building game, and asking if either of us have played the Toy Story's Obstacles and Adventures game.
I came within a few feet of the game once at PAX U last year. I don't think that counts as playing it. I definitely saw it on a shelf and thought, my daughter might like this. It's also too heavy for my luggage. And that's my entire experience with the Toy Story cooperative game.
Have you played the Harry Potter deck builder?
Also haven't played that.
Okay.
So that's 2 strikes.
No,
one more, and I'm no longer qualified to.
No scorekeeping here. I have played it. It's again very similar to the Harry Potter one, but if you were considering one or the other for your 5-year-old, for Roz, does she like the Toy Story movies?
Good question. We will find out soon, I hope.
Then
She watches
maybe
mostly
not yet.
The Nightmare Before Christmas these days.
Okay.
And a lot of YouTube.
It's certainly a simpler theme, or a more accessible theme for younger kids. I like the way it ramps up because it's a progression of episodes. And so you start with episode 1, and it basically teaches you how to play a deck building game. And how the currency works, and it uses tokens. You know, in any of these deck building games, you're trying to keep track of how many coins you still have and how many you spent and all that. This has the mechanism of you get tokens, and then you spend the tokens, and then when you're done, you lose everything that you haven't spent that turn.
Okay, so you got kind of the visual element for younger kids to be able to keep track. And okay, cool.
It also mechanically lets you help each other out. Like you can give stuff to each other on your turn. I can give you a token, which then you can spend on your turn in addition to what you'd be generating with your cards. But I like it. It's a solid game. I just prefer the Harry Potter theme, and so I haven't felt the need to purchase the Toy Story version. They're very similar games.
Yeah, me, I'm a deck building nut. And it's kind of difficult for me to part with deck building games after I get them. And so we have so many flavors of them, like Dominion, Ascension, DC deck building game, NHL Power Play, which is also the DC deck building game, Star Realms, like so many deck builders in our collection. And I just love all the different ways that this mechanism has been implemented. So it sounds like something that would be a lot of fun.
Yeah. What of those? What's your either favorite or most unique deck builder?
The most unique deck builder? Good question. I know we have sunk a lot of money into the DC game because I have fun playing around with the distribution of the cards in that, like taking cards from different sets and trying to build like one cube that works really well with the base rules, and then taking all the different characters and like combining them so you have this wide pool to select from. We did throw a couple of hockey players into our DC set that would work with the superhero cards, so you can be Henrik Zetterberg and your neighbor is Superman and your neighbor is Wonder Woman, and that's kind of fun. That one I like because it is very fast to set up and tear down. And the other deck building games that I like, usually there's a little bit of like you got to sort things out and you got to put things in a certain order. And, so it takes a while to fish out the things you want and then to put away the things that you fished out earlier. Whereas DC, you kind of shuffle the big deck and you're ready to go pretty much. So that is probably why we play that one the most. But I do have quite a lot of love in my heart for Dominion. The original one that kind of brought me to the table. Ascension is great as an app. We usually just shuffle all the cards together when we play that one as an app. And Star Realms you can't beat for 2-player one-on-one play.
Yeah. I forget who asked it because I've lost it here. But who is your second favorite Doctor?
My second favorite Doctor.
Yeah.
Ooh, that's a tough one. I'm going to sidestep, and I'm going to give you my favorite Doctor from the new series and the original series. And that's
then
how we're
one of the
do
two
that.
has to be your second. You just have
right, and then you just figure that.
Yeah.
New series, I'm going to go Peter Capaldi. I really liked a couple of Peter Capaldi stories, especially I think Heaven Sent is probably my favorite story of the new series. It's just him in this kind of bottle episode, and you really get to see him just act his face off in that.
Yeah. That's the one where he's trapped in the castle, right? Sort of that maze-like building. Yeah.
Right, and there's a loop, and he keeps doing things over and over again, and it's a really fun story. Classic series, I mean, Tom Baker's the easy answer. I think I have a second favorite answer, and that's going to be Colin Baker.
Okay.
At least for the classic series, and I think it's because it just speaks to my personal aesthetic, where the loud colors and the sort of abrasive attitude, which was sort of very different from what Doctor Who was at the time. It's very cheesy, and I like cheesy things. Colin Baker, the human being, is an amazing human being. Got to meet him once at a local comic convention. That was a lot of fun. And He took material that would be very hard to deliver well and delivered it incredibly well. Like, he is a professional. He completely owned what he was given and made it good, which explains why he's still working with Big Finish these days and still making Six Doctor stories to this day.
Yeah.
With that in mind, like, if you're asking me to pick favorites, like, each favorite is like 0.5% below the previous one. I can't think of a Doctor I actively dislike.
Yeah.
I like them all for one reason or another. I guess I'm least connected to maybe like William Hartnell stories, but maybe that's just because the sets aren't as cardboard as I'd like them. I don't know, but yeah, Doctor Who is near and dear to my heart. As we can see, the time traveling action game back here. So yeah, that's
very nice. I think my favorite is there on the cover. Tennant is still my favorite, and I think Matt Smith comes right after. But I'm with you. I like part of what makes Doctor Who so engaging is that every few years we sort of get a reimagining of everything as a different actor takes on the role and makes it their own, and you get to see this huge history through the lens of new people. It really brings together the whole storytelling tradition as new people take on this mantle and make it their method of telling stories. It's fascinating. I have my favorites, but the others are also eminently watchable.
Absolutely. And if you were to ask, I would say my favorite Jodie Whittaker story is probably the season premiere of her second series. I don't want to give anything away about that for those who might not have seen it, but it's a two-parter. It's a lot of fun.
Let's see. Crystal has another question. Excluding colas and lemon lime flavors, what is each of your favorite types of soda?
Soda. Okay. I'm going to go... Dr. Pepper's a cola, right?
I guess so probably technically it's almost a cherry cola.
Yeah. So we probably can't use Dr. Pepper. So if we can't use that, I can't use lemon lime. Moxie is a cola too, and I can't.
Yeah. Are we classifying Mountain Dew as a lemon lime flavor as well? It probably is.
Yeah. It's lemon lime and radiation flavored, I think.
But Code Red is not.
No, it is not. So you could answer that if you wanted to. I don't know. Jones Green Apple, probably.
Oh,
I remember liking that quite a bit.
Interesting.
And ginger ale is a kind of a comfort food type of soda. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of ginger ale. I actually really like hard ginger ale. There's some really nice, subtle ones. A lot of the like hard sodas just don't taste right to me, but there are some really nice hard ginger beer options that I really like.
Yeah, I mean, the cheaper the better for me. So it's kind of, did I get it at a gas station at a discount? And if I did, it's probably my favorite. So
a few people saying cream soda. I do like cream soda a lot
as
well.
Yeah, cream soda.
Okay. Everyone's complaining about my vibrating camera. It has stopped. That's good.
Yeah.
People are like, you got to fix it. You got to stop it. Like, I can't. It's actually that my son was doing laundry, and I wasn't going to discourage that.
No, you got to let that continue. You got to let that play out.
Kabuki Kid asks, what is your current video game love, Chris? And asking me as well, or an all-time favorite. So what are you playing right now? And then all-time favorite.
Super Mario Maker 2 is my favorite game for a long time. I wasn't super on board with Mario Maker 1, probably because I didn't have the current Nintendo system at the time either. What I think I love about Mario Maker 2 is it comes with a complete story mode, unlike Mario Maker 1.
Yep.
And all of those levels are great. Like, it's a wonderful, fun exploration of what you can do with a Super Mario game. You get to see all the different sort of styles of Super Mario game. They do a lot of really clever stuff with it. And then when you're done with that, you're not done, because then you can go to Course World and you can look at like the top 100 courses, and you can play some really, really creative stuff, like people recreating the Pokemon Game Boy game in Super Mario, or like there's this one person that has a whole series of them, which is Mario going to the movies, and you go into the door and like they have an auto-scrolling thing where like a short film plays. So they have like the Goomba version of Titanic, where there's two Goombas on a boat and then it hits a thing and falls apart. Like, there are haunted house levels where you have to die halfway through to complete the level. And I don't know how they figured that out. Like, you get trapped in a room where you can't escape, you get killed, and when you come back because you hit the goal pole, like, and a switch is off or something,
oh, man,
you can then continue the level. It's like, I can't believe what people come up with. And it's also really good because my daughter is starting to get into Super Mario now. She kind of started getting into Mario 1 a little bit, and she's played World 1 probably 100,000 times. She can beat it by herself now. Still working on 1 too, but we'll get there. But I can also find levels that are appropriate for her as well. So if she gets bored with a level, then I can kind of go find one that's easy and kind of look at the tags and find something that I think she'll enjoy. So it's something we've gotten to bond over.
Yeah,
and
you could make your own too.
Right. I haven't even touched that part. I've just been having fun playing it. Like, when I was up all night with Ruby when she was first born, I could throw it onto endless easy mode. And even though I would probably beat all those courses because they're super easy, it kept me awake because I was playing a video game and not staring at the TV. So it kept me from falling asleep while I was holding my daughter at 2 a.m. So,
okay.
So it has both function and fun in that respect.
My son is also into Mario Maker 2, and his favorite thing to do is to create troll levels. Are you familiar with this concept?
Very familiar. I've stumbled on a couple by accident here and there, and
the idea being that a troll level lures you into making mistakes and dying over and over and over. It will often attempt to kill you immediately, like any Super Mario level. That like a normal Super Mario level, you start the level and you're standing there. It's like, okay, I get to look around before I decide to make a move. They will put a thwomp right there, and so you stop. Now you're dead. So the first thing you have to do is move out of the way. And so constantly trying to fool you into going into pits that you can't get out of, and down pipes that are going to lead to instant death. And he watches YouTube videos of people creating these things and then gets ideas and builds his own and then says, "Dad, you want to play my troll level?" And then they just sit and laugh at me. It's like before we started the show, it's like, "Dad, you want to play my new troll level?" I said, "I have to get ready for this show. I can't. I keep coming up with excuses why I can't."
Is that why you invited me on tonight?
Yes.
You just get out of.
I just need an excuse to not play another troll level.
Oh, kudos to that young man for what is a great artistic endeavor, I think. My daughter, when she loses at Super Mario, she laughs her head off. She loves it. Like when she gets killed by a Goomba, when she falls in the pit, it's just like, I died, I fell in the pit. And then she just plays again. It's wonderful.
She would love these troll levels because you die a lot.
Yeah, she probably would. Yeah, maybe. My favorite trick in those is when you jump into what is supposed to be open space and then there's a hidden block and it drives you into a pit. That's a fun one.
Yeah, that's a fun one. Video games for me right now, I got my son wanted Dragon Quest, the new Dragon Quest 11. And started playing and got a little stuck, and so I started because I was like, I used to play Dragon Quest a lot. I played through 8, I think, all the way through, and 9 as well. And so I've been playing that in my limited free time where I'm, done my work prep for the day and can sit down for an hour and play through that. So I'm very early on in that adventure, but that's what I've been playing lately. All-time favorite, though, still is the Portal series. Portal 2 being my
great
favorite.
Games. Yeah.
Very, very favorite.
Yeah, not often that you get a game that is that complex, that is that sort of brainy and thinking. It also has a great sense of humor.
Yes.
That is such that speaks right to me. I loved the Portal games. One of the few games that in 3 dimensions that I'll even bother playing.
I would love, now is the time that we need to know about Portal 3. I think we need that right now because we're all about getting out of enclosed spaces. We want that.
The ultimate fantasy, right?
Yes. Jonathan asks, what is both of your favorite non-Weird Al comedy musician?
Okay. All right. I might need to stall and vamp for time on this.
I'll go first.
Why don't you go? All right.
I think I got to go with Jonathan Colton. We've just been talking about Portal, but I like his aesthetic. He's not always funny. Sometimes he's more ironic, sometimes, but he can be silly as well. I just tend to really like his vibe. If you want to go like classic novelty artists, boy oh boy, I really like Tom Lehrer. Poisoning Pigeons in the Park is such a fun song to sing.
It's the time of year for it right now.
It really is.
Yeah.
That's good stuff. So have I stalled enough?
Yeah, you have. Tom Lehrer is a great answer, by the way. It's hard to think of novelty or comedy musicians with any kind of body of work, because usually with novelties, it's like they do one, and it's real popular, and then they just go away, or they try to do a follow-up and it doesn't quite hit the mark. I don't know if you can count Spinal Tap for this, but I do hold Spinal Tap close to heart.
Where else do they fit? Really, I guess if you take them totally seriously, then they're like, oh yeah, they're a hard rock album or a hard rock act. But you can't really take them seriously.
Yeah, I think that's what I appreciate about Spinal Tap, though, and same with Death Clock, probably, is there is great attention to the musicianship. If you weren't really paying attention, it sounds like regular music, but there's a joke there. And what I particularly like about Spinal Tap is the joke is not always like completely direct. Like it relies a little bit on the context of understanding that this is a band that's kind of not very good at what they do, or is just writing these vapid lyrics on purpose or whatever. So whereas Weird Al, the greatest musician of all time, kind of gets to the point with the joke, right? It's like, okay, we're talking about eating things and you should eat things, and that's the joke. Spinal Tap, it takes a little bit more kind of brain crunching to get there, which is kind of fun. So as far as a particular artist with a grand body of work, it would probably be Tom Lehrer. But there's a bunch of like little one-offs that are great. I mean, you got to give credit to, I think one of my favorite sort of obscurities is Addicted to Stress by Jim Infantino.
Oh, I'm addicted to stress. That's the way that I get things done.
If I'm not anymore, and we'll get a copyright strike.
Yes. It's a good one, though. It's dense. I love novelty music that is dense and difficult to sing along with. And you can not only appreciate the mastery of the language, but also the musicality that comes with it. Like a well-crafted novelty song. A lot of people can write a silly song and record it poorly, but to actually do something that has a musicality to it as well is something I really appreciate.
When the joke wears off, if you can still listen to it and enjoy it and sing along with it, that's a real hallmark of good stuff. And for those who haven't listened to it, Dr. Demento Covered in Punk came out a couple of years ago.
That is a great album.
It is a fantastic album. If you grew up with Dr. Demento, as Eric and I have, I think it's a must listen, and it's on most of the streaming services right now if you have those. So do check that out if you get a chance.
I think I've skipped over a few things because chat was just sort of chatting. I'm going to go to one that came up on Twitter before the show. Match Game. We're going back to classic Match Game, and this particular poster was a little miffed, and I've noticed this too, I have to say, that, in Match Game, the contestant is trying to match the panel with a fill-in-the-blank answer. And if they have control of the board, if they're the first to choose, they're presented with a little placard that says A or B. Which question do you want? And they say A or B, and that is the question they will have to match with the panel. And often, one of those two is a simpler, more obvious pun or joke, which therefore leads the panel to make the obvious joke. And if the contestant can make the obvious joke, it's basically an insta-win.
Right.
Whereas the other one of those two options is not as clear and may offer
a little more esoteric.
Yeah. And offers less of a chance to make direct matches.
Right.
I actually think this is on purpose. I
kind of think so too.
I think they try and do this because I've seen this in the new version as well. I don't think this is just a classic Match Game problem. I think they, at the very least, they go for round one trying to do the more esoteric, the harder to match questions. and then
So
they
it's
try
kind of
and
the joke
make
of beating up on the contestants a little bit.
right, so that they start out with only 1 or 2 points or 0
Right.
heading into round 2, and then round 2 they want someone to win somewhat decisively.
Right.
And so at least one of those questions at the end is more obvious.
Rudolph the red-nosed blank, and
Yeah.
then yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I was thinking about this, and I'm of two minds about this. Number one, I think it is noticeable, and it can be kind of annoying, I guess, if you're sitting and thinking of match game as a game of skill, where you are trying to get into the heads of the celebrities and match the stars, and if you think of it as a game like that, then yeah, it's a flaw, sure. But I was thinking about this, and that sort of random 50-50 choice is perhaps no more random than the big wheel on The Price is Right. And if you look at it that way, considering that the contestant has a free choice, they can pick one of the two. It's going to be either the easy one or the difficult one. Then it might allow you to forgive it a little bit more, knowing that unless somebody dominates in the first round, that they're basically just picking which one's going to leave them to win. And then sometimes they blow it anyway.
Yes, which is also entertaining.
Yeah, which is entertaining. And maybe that's part of it too. Like they're trying to draw out those moments where it's an obvious softball and the person goes way off somewhere else, and then they get to have some fun with that. But
right.
So at the end of the day, match game is a humor panel show and less of a game show, even though there's prizes and money involved.
It's much more of an entertainment product than it is a competitive game.
Yeah, it becomes a gamer's game in the final round. So if you make it there, then it's got to be a little more serious and a little more balanced and straightforward. But it's really a comedy show up until that point. So
sure.
So I can forgive it, but I also see the complaint. Yeah.
Jonathan asks about, over the years of Flip the Table, you played one or multiple different Mad Magazine games?
Two.
Jonathan says there's 3 different Mad Magazine games: Mad, Spy vs. Spy, and the card game. Have you played all 3 of those?
I have. I did play the card game. I wish I could remember more about it. I know it was very Uno-y in presentation, but I've got a lot more experience with Spy vs. Spy and with the Mad Magazine game itself.
Which was your favorite?
Which was my favorite? Hold on, I'm just going to prove that.
Which one's at the top of the pile is basically.
So here's Spy vs. Spy, which is a great game and is also in my attic because the Mad Magazine game is in with my regular collection. And that one is the one I would be more likely to break out of the two. Now, for somebody who is a serious gamer and is looking for more of a serious game, I would say reach for Spy vs. Spy. Because as a game, it is far tighter. It is brutal and mean, but you want that from a Spy vs. Spy game. And it's far more strategic in nature. Yeah, it's still like a kind of Milton Bradley kids game, but it's going to scratch that gamer itch for you a lot more than the Mad Magazine game. The reason I like the Mad Magazine game so much is to sort of give you the 10-second version of our review, which we did with the wonderful Rich Summer years ago, back on episode 20 of Flip the Table at tableflipsu.com plug. There is on the board and in the instructions an instruction that says, if there is a thing about the rules that you're confused about, just take a vote and decide what it means and figure it out. And the game is completely loaded with intentionally misleading and confusing rules and situations.
It's the rules lawyer's nightmare.
Right. Like there's a space that says go to Toledo, Ohio, and you have to decide what that means as a group. Or move the value of one die, but which one is it, and this and that. And so in our game that we played when we reviewed it, we kind of, so we debate about it a little bit, and we kind of set precedents, and then we had to follow those precedents in later turns.
Yep.
And with the object being to lose all of your money, because it's supposed to be like opposite Monopoly, right? You go counterclockwise around the board, you're trying to lose all of your money and not gain it. So that sort of meta aspect of it was really fun. And that is, of the 2 game experiences I had, that was the one where I laughed the most. So that's why that one sits in my collection. And it looked cool on a shelf, too. So
Nice.
yeah.
Very quick question from Nick. Yes or no, Necco wafers?
No.
Yes.
More like neck no.
Neck, yes.
What I say.
I love those things. Or
Yeah, good for
loved,
you.
I guess. I guess they don't exist anymore, which is sad.
I don't know if they were bringing them back. I don't know.
Oh,
I'm good.
maybe somebody did. I mean, they're here in Connecticut. At least I remember. But they I love the licorice flavored ones. I like the gray ones.
Wow.
Oh,
Wow. So
I go
just the
hard on
Necco
Necco wafers. Not just that I like them. I like the licorice ones, which is the one everyone hates. Give me the liquor. Give me a whole vat of licorice Neccos.
So maybe you made out good on trades on Halloween back in the day.
I probably did.
You just clean up on Necco wafers and give everybody else your Snickers bars and Reese's and
Yeah, who
there
needs
you go.
that? You can get those all the
Right.
time. You gotta
Right.
you gotta really want Neccos. Although Kabuki mentions that the pink Necco wafers always tasted like Pepto-Bismol, and that is true. But I like Pepto-Bismol, so
You know, weirdly enough, me too,
Yeah.
actually. Yeah.
yes, indeed.
Yeah.
Then everyone's arguing about Necco wafers and Nilla wafers. Those are different products. Nilla,
They definitely
Necco, it's like oh boy, this is going on for a while.
Just evolved into we look
In-
away from the chat for 1 second.
And they're just having candy wars. We're talking about Portal. That's good. Let's see. Talking about Jonathan Colton. That's always good. Speaking of Jonathan Colton, so the Dice Tower and Board Game Geek are teaming up to do their virtual convention next week. I have a few events that I am running. I'm doing 2 different sessions of Merchant of Venus. I am doing a session of Parsley, which we played on Dice Tower Tonight a couple of weeks ago. Sadly, they're full already, so don't go rushing. But that's my plan. But I am also going to appear on Derek Porter's stream he's doing a rock band night. And I am one of the guest
That's cool.
vocalists for rock
Nice.
band, and I'm doing a Jonathan Colton song. So I'm excited.
That sounds like an exciting thing to watch for sure.
I hope it
I
works.
miss Rock Band. Remember 2009? Man, those were the days. Rock Band
Oh, yeah.
and just getting together with your friends in the same place and playing Rock Band. My favorite thing to do in Rock Band or in karaoke is to play "Smells Like Teen Spirit" but sing the words to "Never Gonna Give You Up." That's
Oh. See, that isn't what
Yeah.
I thought you were going to say.
yeah.
Being the
It's-
fan that you are. But that's okay.
It always catches people by surprise, and it's a lot of fun to do. And you don't even need to change the melody or anything. You just
Okay.
if you look it up, you can probably find it out there somewhere. It's not an original idea of mine. It's something I heard somewhere and really liked. So
Nice.
I think if you Google "Never Gonna Give Your Teen Spirit Up," you'll find some version of that, and you can check that out.
I like it. Let's see. Jonathan asks, what other games were considered for episode 10,001? You had a resurgence of Flip the Table not too long ago. Brought the old
did.
gang back together. What other games did you consider for that resurrection episode?
Gosh, that was a fun one. 10,001 was great. We did that in New Hampshire at the Granite Games Summit back in March. We ended up playing the Wayne's World VCR game, which was a total blast. On the short list for that were Rodney Dangerfield's No Respect, which is up here. And it's actually, the reason I have it here is because I have another copy downstairs. It's a game that I really like. So we considered that, but that one's kind of just, as Bruce Vogue would say, a box of numbers. And then once you're done talking about that, you kind of run out of material, so it wouldn't have necessarily made a full podcast. Consider that one. Considered Girl Talk Dateline, but then audio components at the convention, I got a little shy about that because with the video, you can look up the video on YouTube and you have access to it. I didn't necessarily want to bring a tape player to the convention. So that was on the short list. We had a lot of different ideas from people in our Facebook group and stuff, but Wayne's World is one that was mentioned over and over again over the years, and we just never got to. The other one that I wanted to do, because we just have never gotten around to it, was DVD Clue, because because I remember Tom actually saying that is the definitive version of Clue, in his opinion. And I have it. It is on this shelf. I still haven't played it, and I regret not having played it yet.
Was it DVD Clue or Clue the Museum Caper? I thought he had said it was Museum Caper.
I'm too lazy to Google it right now. Maybe somebody in the chat can set it straight. But, it was a case where DVD Tropical Tycoon Monopoly was a lot of fun. And
yes, it
DVD
was.
Clue sounds like a lot of fun. So that one, probably would have made a great show, but we really had to pick something that's more funny than just out there. And Wayne's World seemed to fit the bill.
Speaking of Monopoly Tropical Tycoon, I happened to be in the area when you got your board signed for Monopoly Tropical Tycoon at
So you
PAX
saw that,
Unplugged.
huh?
I did. And I'm curious what you have done with it. Did you frame the board? Is it in a place of honor in your collection?
It is in the box for Monopoly Tropical Tycoon.
What a novel place to put it.
Yeah. It's whenever I get a game component signed, I like to play using that game component. Like we have my favorite game, The 12 Doctors. We have our Colin Baker card signed by Colin Baker, and we play with that.
Nice.
So that's really the place of honor, in my opinion. Why put that on a wall when you can put it on a table and play with it? I will say, though, I was not poised in that situation. I nerded out super hard on Rob Daviau. It was the first time I had ever met him, and I was starstruck and I fell apart. And, even doing as much as I've been lucky enough to do with Flip the Table and going to conventions and stuff, I just became a slack-jawed fool in that moment. And I was like, oh, you signed this thing. And then he signed it, and he was very gracious about it.
It was very endearing, for sure. I have been in that situation myself. I think I've told this story before, but my family agreed, after bugging them forever, on a trip to California to go to Sierra Online, the offices where they made the adventure point-and-click games and earlier text 3D adventures, King's Quest and Space Quest, and I got to walk into the office and meet Roberta Williams, creator of King's Quest. And she's just a lady in an office, in like it was just an office. In the middle of her regular workday, and I got to meet her, and like a 13, 14-year-old kid, I freaked out. I was vibrating, and I was like, it's so nice.
Are you sure your son wasn't doing laundry?
So yes, exactly. It was as if that was my reenactment earlier in the program. I shut down, and just, this woman created some of my favorite games, and I didn't know what to say, and I just sort of held out my King's Quest V sleeve, which I think... Hang on a second.
What?
Hang
Wait.
on a second.
What?
Hang on a second. Is it here?
Wait, am I doing the show alone now?
No.
I'm scared.
You know what? I can't find it. I think it's here. I think it's in this room. Wait. Hang on.
So, by the way, you want to go to tableflipsu.com. You can get the complete series. But, there we go.
Look at that. To Eric, Roberta Williams.
Wow.
This very story that I just talked about, Absence Makes the Heart Go Yonder. I also have Space Quest, signed by, which of the two guys did I get? Scott Murphy. But yeah, anyway, I was over the moon getting to meet them and see where they made the games, which was a lot like an office. There was no Roger Wilco walking around the hallway.
I would probably be that guy if I ever got to tour Hasbro, which is about a 5-hour drive from where we are. I would probably turn into a puddle of mush, I think.
Would you rather drive a go-kart or play Mario Kart?
Fun fact about me, I cannot drive a car. I did get my license years ago, and then I tried driving a couple times. Short version, didn't work out so good.
Okay. All right.
I love driving go-karts because I'm allowed to drive it. And and I won't get into an accident that will hurt people. And so I like to power slide around the corners. And Mario Kart is great, especially Mario Kart 8, because I can play it with Roz. And they have the controls that you can set where the car will kind of drive itself. So when she was first kind of taking an interest in video games, it was good because she could hold the controller and she wouldn't just dive off a cliff, because then she would have lost interest in it. But we're now able to take the training wheels off a little bit and give her a little more control. And it's nice that it has that fine tuning available, so that if she wants to do more of her own steering, she can.
Yeah.
But at first, if she just wanted to kind of hold the controller and watch Peach drive herself, she could do that.
Yes. I remember, though, being very frustrated because I didn't know that feature was on when I first started playing the new Mario Kart. And I'm driving along like, why is it fighting me all the why didn't I fall off the cliff? I was heading right over the edge. And like realizing, oh, wait, we got to turn that off. You got to take the training wheels off the game. And then making sure that the other participants did the same thing. Since we brought up the Sierra Online, were you a fan of those style of games, Chris?
We got our first computer in the house in 97 or so, and it was an 030 Macintosh. So the games that I ended up playing, which were not Nintendo or Super Nintendo games, that's where I did most of my video gaming, were the stuff that would run on an 030 Macintosh. So we're talking Daleks and like an old Spades program and stuff that would run on HyperCard. And that was the games that I could get to run. Total Distortion, that one would run, and that was like a point-and-click adventure game.
Okay.
I loved that game, and it did not run well on my old 030 Mac, but I stuck with it. Because the concept of the game is you are a music video producer who goes to a place called the Distortion Dimension to collect footage from music videos to sell back to channels on Earth. And you have to avoid the Guitar Warriors and solve flash puzzles and try to survive and eat and sleep and keep yourself healthy and also make music videos. So you'd play a point-and-click adventure game for a while, and then you'd go back to your tower and you would sequence a music video out of like little animated GIFs and whatever music that you happen to pick up along the way. And then you'd go through these like text-based adventure things where you try to sell it to the video producer and schmooze them and try to get the most money. And the goal was to like make $1 million and get so many fame points before the game's internal clock ran out, basically. It was fascinating. I think they were pushing the hardware way harder, but also if you tried to play it on a newer machine, the games would run too fast and you couldn't keep up with them that way.
Right. Back in the day, you had to tweak your system to play whatever game you wanted to play, even to the point of having specific boot discs for certain games. Wing Commander was one that really pushed. This is a space flight simulator, and it just demanded the most from your computer that you could possibly ask it to do. And you would have to restart your computer with a disk in the drive, a floppy disk for those kids who don't know what that is, that would then adjust the settings for memory and the way it allocated the resources of the machine so that it wouldn't run a spreadsheet very well, but it would run Wing Commander passively. And then I guess when you wanted to go back to spreadsheeting or word processing, you rebooted.
You shut it down and
But the fact that you had to do that was just something we did.
Yeah, I know. There was a button in Total Distortion that just said Zap RAM. And it was in your console. So it's like, look in your inventory, like go to the next room, zap RAM. So you like just clear your memory out if it was slowing down.
Interesting.
Yeah. Way ahead of its time. An interesting Let's Play if you find one on YouTube, if you don't want to go through the trouble of,
Another, way to age me. I think I played a demo of Total Distortion. I had not played the whole game, but this is back in the day when I would subscribe to a magazine of some sort that came with a demo disc.
Yeah, like a PC Gamer or something like that.
PC Gamer, and you'd get a little, disc CD that you could play demo versions of 5 or 6 different games, try them out before you bought them. I think I had the same for PlayStation 2, I think. There was a PlayStation magazine that
I remember that.
Before you could download demos, which is what you do now if you or you just buy the game. Right. But if you want to try out a game, you could get a demo. You had to wait for the new issue of the magazine to arrive. I wonder what demos are in here, and I'll play all of them and find out which games I want one a later purchase. As a concept, that was pretty crazy. David says he ran into you at G2S, the Granite Games Summit, and asks, what was your favorite game that you got to play there?
My favorite game that I got to play at Granite Games Summit would have to be, if we're going with published games and not unpublished stuff, Lovelace and Babbage was a fantastic game. That was a real surprise because as the flip the table guy, I tend to be a little behind on the news with these things. And that was phenomenal. I really enjoyed that game. And then the person to my right was selling a copy in the flea market and said, you know what? You seem to be so enthused about this game. I'm just going to hold this aside for you. I'm going to charge a ridiculously low price to you. You're going to get all the Kickstarter goodies. So I got like the whole thing for $10 with all the little extra tokens and stuff. That was a really, really good deal for that game. The 10-second elevator pitch is, you are doing mathematical operations in real time and you want to get them correct and reach certain numbers. It is based on the pioneers of computer technology, and it's a fascinating game.
I have a copy and have tried to bring it out a couple of times. I think my eldest would enjoy it, the 12-year-old. He enjoys math, but it is a race where you're trying to do these operations. Everyone is simultaneously making these decisions, and so it's not one that I can really play with the mixed group of the 12-year-old and the 9-year-old and me. It just isn't, without figuring it, without house ruling some sort of handicap, basically. It just doesn't work. The 9-year-old's just going to get frustrated very quickly. And so it hasn't hit the table in an official capacity in this particular circumstance. But I want to. It looks fun. I saw some earlier stuff, and then we got into some sort of chocolate peanut butter discussion. Interesting. Favorite Muppet?
That's what we got in here. Favorite Muppet?
Favorite Muppet?
Grover.
Grover is quite endearing.
Yeah, and Grover is one that I enjoy watching with my daughter. Sometimes we'll, if we're doing well on time at bedtime, we will watch one or two Sesame Street videos or something like that on my phone. And so she enjoys watching Grover torturing the Blue Man and getting his orders wrong at the restaurant. And so that's a lot of fun. It's rough on my voice when we read Monster at the end of this book. I think you've had the same experience.
Oh, yes. Monster at the end of this book is, it's a classic for one thing, so you have to do it. But, stop turning pages! Why do you do this to me? Yeah. Oh, it's a great book, though. I love any of those classic pairings of Muppets, and usually it's a Jim Henson, Frank Oz pair. Yeah. But not always. I don't think the Blue Man was Henson. I think that was one of the other Muppet performers. But Ernie and Bert, I adore, and I love Kermit and Fozzie. Anytime the two of them got to play off of each other, it really just sails. But I don't know if they're my favorite. Grover is a really good answer.
Yeah. Bunsen and Beaker. You gotta love Cookie Monster too. I mean, come on.
Cookie Monster's pretty solid. I think I like Gonzo.
Gonzo's good stuff.
Gonzo has the zany. Like, he's often really zany. But if you think back to the Muppet movie, he has one of the most heartfelt, sentimental songs in that whole movie. I'm going to go back there someday. And as a kid, I hated that song. But I really like the quiet nature of that song. And so Gonzo has a real heart, even though he has a thing for poultry and does these crazy, wacky things. So I like that dichotomy from Gonzo.
Yeah.
Grover voice essential. Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
The Count is a favorite. I like whenever
Count is a pretty fantastic.
Just doing the voice of the Count. I had to do diaper changes at Sesame Place, the apartment or the amusement park. Remember amusement parks? The amusement park, Sesame Street themed amusement park in Pennsylvania, and they have some sort of water feature that is the Count's castle. And I was trying to do a diaper change in the men's restroom with the youngest, and or the only child at that point, and just hearing this countdown go off every time they dumped a bucket of water on all of the unsuspecting children. And so the count would come on and go, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0! And then the water would spread. But they went through that cycle like 8 times while I'm trying to do the cleanup and getting him dressed again. Really good stuff.
Yeah, and if you haven't done that count during a game of Battlestar Galactica, you probably have no soul, I'm guessing, yeah.
I'm looking for one more because, believe it or not, it is 10 o'clock.
That time just flew by.
It really does.
We got.
Do we have one that we want to end on as far as... Have either of you played Untold with Rory's Story Cubes? I don't know if you've played it, Chris.
I definitely haven't.
I have. I found Untold. This is it's an RPG basically. Or even less than an RPG, more like a storytelling framework. So you are given like a placard that's the beginning of the story, and you will roll Rory's Story Cubes, which are these cubes with different symbols on them. You can get sets for Scooby-Doo. You can get a Doctor Who set. You can get just standard actions and relationships and stuff like that. You roll these, and then you plug them in. Here is the protagonist, and here's the problem they're dealing with, and it's all sort of a jumping-off point to community tell this story. And you've got character sheets and what happened last episode, and you work your way through revealing these story elements and rolling more dice, and I didn't find it engaging as a game. It really isn't a game. It's much more of a collaborative storytelling experience. But my kids love it, and are always asking to play it when I'm not in the mood to play that sort of game. But it is an interesting...
Isn't that the way it goes?
Yeah,
right?
you know,
Yeah.
they've got their favorites, but it has to be... You have to be in the right mindset. Don't open this thinking that it's like a co-op quest to conquer. It is a framework for creating stories, and if that is what you're in for, it's a great product for doing that. I don't know if that's a great final question, but that is a final question.
Let's do one more.
Yeah.
Just for the heck. This will be an encore question, right? We'll come back out on stage and do one more.
Why don't you, if you're looking at the chat, why don't you have last choice there?
Okay, hold on.
If there's something
Looking
else
at
you
the
want to
thing.
pick.
Let's see.
They're all talking about their favorite Muppets at the moment. Anyway.
Favorite Muppets. Pretzels and Nutella. Rodney Dangerfield appeared in a Stanley Kubrick movie. I really like Pepto-Bismol. Eric needs an intervention.
I love the weird aliens that would make the yip.
Yeah, I love those too. Those are...
I've always wanted to make the Halloween costume of those. You have like this big drapey sheet, and then you hold your arms out like this, and that's the mouth. And so you can walk around and... yip. It would be very tiring, but hilarious.
There's one we can end on, which we'll just do on our own. What's your favorite Halloween costume that you've ever...
Ooh. The best costume... Boy. No, it's got to be... I have a Blossom... No, it's not Blossom. It's Bubbles. I have a Bubbles Powerpuff Girl costume. Back when I was on the air at Beethoven.com, we had a webcam just like this while we were on the air. So I'd be doing my radio thing, pretty much like this setup right here. And there was a webcam that you could watch us live. And so on Halloween, we would literally dress up. And so I had this big plastic goggles with the cartoon eyes, the blue dress, covers for my shoes. I freaked out the other employees at the radio station, but I was dressed as Bubbles for one Halloween.
Yeah, I think my favorite one was the year I went as the Hamburglar. And I went into a McDonald's dressed as the Hamburglar. And turns out, when you're wearing that mask, you can't see very well. And you trip on things like wet floor signs. So it didn't quite go off as well as I would have liked. But we got some good pictures, at least.
Well, Chris, I didn't think that we'd go everywhere that we went here in our conversation today. I thought we'd just be talking about TV game shows, and we We got to like King's Quest and Space Quest.
I know. It was just a wild orbit around anything but board games, basically. But.
Yes. But I really appreciate you for joining me, Chris. It's always great to talk to you. Chat, thank you so much for spending your time with us. And we'll be back with more of these. Another daily chat coming up tomorrow. And you can catch Crystal and me for Dice Tower Tonight next week on Wednesday. But until then, I'm Eric Summerer.
And I'm... who am I? Moderator Chris.
That works.
At the table. He used to be, at least.
And
TableFlipsU.com. The whole series is there where we left it.
And you've been watching the Dice Towers Daily Chat.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.